So, DC has been pushing really hard. I'd like to start off with that after you do your intro.
Yeah, so we are here with the best doctor in the entire world, and it's Hypno. Um,
Hey, everybody.
let's start off with, where did you go to school, sir? Where did you get your doctorate?
I got my doctorate at Caltech, where I currently teach. I teach the physics course. I primarily teach quantum mechanics over there, and I'm currently working on a research project, which I can't talk about, because
Okay.
I've signed because I have an investment company, and they made me help me They help me with the money, so I signed an NDA.
So, are you a fan of the Gotham series?
Oh yeah, I am, and I'm ready for DC's fandom's game, Gotham Knights. That's right.
Yes, we are here to talk about Gotham Knights. First off, from the trailer that you saw, whose gameplay are you the absolute? If now I know what we are gonna do is we're gonna have uh, a selection of the person that we're playing. Like, I'm choosing one person, you're choosing one suspect, and choose somebody. Not from the person that you chose. Who are you excited about?
Red Hood. So, I chose Nightwing to clarify for all the viewers, and for Red Hood, it seems interesting. It's kind of interesting the design they took. It's a little bit different, but it seems to be more categorically similar to the Injustice Red Hood in terms of aesthetic. Now, it's interesting how, with all the weapons, including the pistols that Red Hood wields in the trailer, that they all have the lights or LED lights shining off their weapons. Now, of course, everyone should know who Red Hood is. If you don't, you know Jason Todd,
Mm-hmm.
murdered, but almost got murdered by Joker. Actually, in the comics, he did get murdered, resurrected by the Lazarus Pit. Anyway, long story. Go read the comics. So I think his gameplay will be interesting, though I do question, like, if it's going to be, like, more, if they're going to all have grappling hooks or not. We already saw that Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, had grappling hooks, and she obviously wields batons. Now, I'm not exactly sure if all the characters are going to have, like, the same utilities, or if they're going to have, like, different ways of playing. I think Batgirl is going to be more similar to Batman in style, except with batons, which will be a little bit different because Batman, he doesn't need a weapon, he just needs his fist. So,
And if
but
you watch my gameplay on my channel since day one, I've always preferred to be the female character because a lot of people
Slave
don't
Leia.
like it. Yeah, like Slave Leia, sexy stewardess. Um,
Yep. See. Brock is the Max Mofo of our group. Obviously there's more than three. I'd probably be Filthy Frank, and suspect would be iGoobs. So, but yeah, he would be the Max Mofo of our group.
that's what I do, brother. I know not a lot of people are fans of the son of Bruce, but what did you think of him as? Now, is that going to be him as Robin, or is that going to be somebody else? Do you think? Because I
I'm
know
not sure
he's
if
had
it's
a
going to
shit
be
ton of
Tim Drake
Robins.
or Damian Wayne. See, here's the problem that I see. So, in terms of narrative structure, it seems to make more sense that it'd be Damian Wayne.
That's what I thought.
But based off the trailer, though, unless if it's a misdirect, it seems to be Tim Drake. You know what I'm saying? Because especially since he got the video sent to him, or at least we're assuming. I'd have to look over the trailer again. But I think in terms of, like, narrative structure, it makes more sense that it's Damian Wayne. But I'm not exactly sure they're going to go that way, because I don't think they're going to bring in Talia al Ghul, so it doesn't make sense for it to be Damian Wayne, unless they bring in Talia.
See,
But
if it is Drake, where would this play into the story? Because I've never heard of Bruce going on a hiatus and the four of them having to take over when Tim was in.
that's interesting, too. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how it's going to play in the narrative. The bare minimum we know is that the antagonist is going to be the Court of Owls, and it already
Yep.
showed that Mr. Freeze was going to be in it. And there is, theories that the Talons and Azrael is going to be in this one. I'm not exactly sure where they're going to take the narrative 100%. I have to read the comic books probably. The Court of Owls is not used that much at all, really.
And I
They
think it's a
mention them in.
fresh take, to be honest with you.
It might be a fresh take. That's true. But the way I think that's going to be is that, it depends if it's single player, multiplayer. I hope it's multiplayer, and I hope it's not like multiplayer where, you get to play as like two people at one time or wherever. Kind of like, I hope it's like you can like have up four people and just play like, a level. Hopefully it's not going to be one of those things where, it switches off between characters, kind of like, a different, like, switching in the story sense, but I'm not exactly sure where they're going to go with the story. It seems like they're going to offer a lot of different gameplay, though, with each of the characters, especially since each of them will wielding different weapons. I don't know if they're going to have, like an online aspect where it's kind of like, where... I'm not exactly sure how they're going to, like, approach this stuff either. It's going to be interesting how they do, because, there's so many directions they can go, but I'm still, like, waiting for more to be released in terms of gameplay trailers. I think that will answer a lot of the questions.
See, I really hope that, it puts some love towards the movie where the Court of Owls were present, where Damien got that sigh, and I hope that plays into the story where he at least uses a sigh at least once. Damn right they're terrified of me. Gotham needs me.
I know this can work. Give me a chance to change your mind. My hands are tied.
So then, do you think it's a mistake or the best thing for them to not include Batman as of we know so far?
Your mic cut out for a second, by the way.
I asked you if you think that it was a mistake that they don't have Batman in the game.
I mean, not really, because there's already games with Batman you can play as for Arkham Knight, and I think, like, they're trying to, like, mix it up a little bit, because Marvel has been killing it with games. So, especially, like, since they've released Ultimate Alliance 3, they're releasing the new Avengers game that's coming out, like on the 29th of August, and then they also released the Insomniac Spider-Man, and they're also going to be releasing Miles Morales with the PS5.
I'm pissed that's not coming for the PS4, because I'm not picking up the PS5 when it drops.
Yeah, so what was I going to say? So my opinion, my professional opinion as a doctor, is that it's not a mistake. I think plus it's interesting because you don't get to play as the sidekicks that much unless we count a Lego game, but it's going to be interesting to have the four of them, and hopefully, I'm really hoping they have actual legitimate multiplayer. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping it's like actual legitimate multiplayer. And I think I think DC games are going to try to go this way, especially with the Suicide Squad game that's dropping too, where you can play as Harley Quinn, Deadshot, Boomerang, and King Shark.
I'll be Harley Quinn, hopefully.
Retro already called Harley Quinn.
Oh, I'm gonna fight him.
Yeah.
We're gonna settle it.
Yeah, I already called Boomerang, so.
Well, y'all can.
Yeah, back to the Gotham Knights though. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I hope we see some awesome stuff. I hope that the mechanics are gonna be awesome, dude. I wonder what they're gonna like do with the gameplay though too. Is it gonna be like Arkham Knight, or is it gonna be completely different gameplay?
Have you played any of the Arkham series?
I played a little bit of the first one. I probably need to restart that one. It was at a moment where I got like lost. I just came out of like this room where there's like all these guys. You're jumping like across the room trying to take them out. And I was analyzing like a chemical component or something. I forgot exactly where I was, but it was after the moment where I encountered the Riddler's first riddle or whatever. So it was sometime after that.
Well, if you need gameplay of the walkthrough,
www.youtube.brockman game.
Well, no, I've played through them all except for, oh god, which one is it? It's not Asylum.
Origins?
Origins, yes, because that was strictly for the PS3.
Origins, I think Origins is not like. My understanding of it is it's like not considered one of the greatest ones. I'm not 100% sure. I know that like people like Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, and Arkham Knight. I don't think people care as much for Origins as much.
I liked Arkham Knight. I just wasn't a fan of the constant Batmobile use.
I see.
Speak for yourself.
You know, with like, you know, it's kind of interesting. So for everyone asking if the Gotham Knights is a continuation of the Arkham series, it's not.
Teeth.
You know, and it's interesting because they use literally the same ending for Arkham Knight to set up the Gotham Knights, but you know, I guess it kind of works a little bit better this way because the graphics again are like completely different. They kind of changed it up a little bit, but you know, I really wish that they would have continued the Arkham series. But yet again, I guess the way it ended was perfect though. But yeah, no, I'm kind of like curious how all their gameplay's gonna work. I hope it's not the same gameplay. I feel like Jason Todd's gonna be the most different because he uses projectile-based weapons instead of the melee. So I feel like whoever beats Red Hood would have to provide cover fire, and then you know it'd be up to the rest to melee the enemies. That's just what I think though that they're gonna do. It's also interesting that how they chose like the different color schemes for the characters, because we already saw that Robin has the green color scheme, Nightwing blue, Red Hood red, and then yellow for Barbara Gordon. Also, another way you can tell that it's not a continuation of the Arkham series is because the Oracle was disabled in the Arkham series, whereas Barbara Gordon is completely fully functional spine. So.
See, and that's also why I wanted to be Batgirl, because my favorite color is yellow. So, you know, and plus, if you're watching the series now, you'll notice my Batman is yellow.
Yep. Oh yeah, what thing was I gonna mention? You know, I found this out recently too, because I was trying to find the other Batgirls, because no one talks about the other ones. They only talk about Barbara Gordon. I didn't know that Helena Bertinelli was one of the Batgirls. That was really interesting.
I have no idea who that is.
She's Huntress. Helena Bertinelli, she's Huntress.
Oh.
So Huntress was actually one of the Batgirls. Which is interesting. Now, as for the favorite for out of all the Robins, everyone knows that Dick Grayson's the best Grayson.
I mean, hold on. Yeah, I can agree with you. Yeah, I can honestly agree with you. Ooh, sorry, buddy.
But
so let me
think of where else to go. I guess like we talked about Gotham Knights quite a bit, so should we talk about the Suicide Squad game?
I actually didn't watch anything on that. So before we move on from Batman, let me just ask you, in my honest 1000% opinion, I feel that they need to stop doing the Batman and Superman movies and start with the younger Batmans, like Batman Beyond, do his live action and all that. Do you agree, or do you think there's still a way to twist the Batman story to make more movies?
I mean, like, the biggest problem is that DC, in terms of their movies, don't have their shit together. I have to hand it to their animated films. If you want to go, like, hard on DC, go watch the animated films, trust me. They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
But the problem is that they didn't, and I don't know if it's Zack Snyder's fault or if it's the company's fault, but somewhere along the lines things got fucky, you know, because they started with Man of Steel for the franchise. Now Man of Steel was really good, you know, it kind of dragged a little bit at parts, but I thought, you know, it was a pretty good Superman film, especially the opening. That was so good, and then, you know, it was darker for a Superman film because Superman in the end literally kills Zod. He literally snaps his neck at the end, so I was just, you know, that's a moment where everyone's like, yeah, because he's finally, you know, not the typical Boy Scout. He had to resolve to kill Zod in order to defeat him, which contradicts how Superman typically solves things with truth, justice, and the American way. No, I think that was a good setup. You know, you had the Superman film. The problem is that they rushed it big time, and I'm going to give you the big example. So first of all, I feel like they didn't know what they're doing. You know, they just threw some stuff together. If you've ever seen the movie Ratatouille, where Louis, right? It's Louis, who puts the soup together and he's just throwing random shit in there, you know, because he spilled or whatever.
Yep.
It's kind of like that. They're just throwing random shit. So you have Batman versus Superman, and they kill off Superman. If they're going to make a franchise, they have to bring Superman back. So it doesn't make sense. And what's interesting is that they use the setup. They use the setup of Superman dying as a need for the Justice League, which really doesn't work, because if you kill off Superman and bring him back, there's no stakes. And that's the thing about if you make a series, there has to be stakes. So the way they should have done it is that they should have made a threat that's such a great threat that Superman can't do it alone, and that leads to the Justice League, which is why I think for this Justice League film, they should have went with Brainiac as the first villain. I think he's the first good, easy, basic villain to do that would be a threat to all of them. The problem is that, you know, you could do the Legion of Doom, but that's too early. You could do Darkseid, but still too early. Brainiac would have probably been the best for the first of them. Now, another problem too is like with Suicide Squad. The biggest problem with Suicide Squad wasn't rushing it or whatever. The biggest problem is that they basically made it as hot topic-y as possible and had bad acting and bad storylines and bad music and just a mediocre film overall. So back to the original question about the Batman. So the way I think they should have done it is, for a franchise, they should have had at least 1 to 2 Batman films in Phase 1 of their DC universe. And what they should have done is they could have introduced Joker in one of those. They could have introduced Joker in one of those. You know, they didn't have to follow Heath Ledger's steps. You know, obviously no one wants to rehash that, and I think the public would be more okay with it because they liked Heath Ledger. But you know, you could have done your own thing, except not the Jared Leto Hot Topic ad, whatever they were doing with that. You know, they could have just done a more, another take. You know, they could have done another take. You know, they could have taken elements of stuff. You know, they could have done it more like Joaquin Phoenix. You know, they could have made it a comedic, but also terrifying Joker. You know, had the best balance, kind of like Mark Hamill's portrayal. And they could have also like introduced villains that we've never seen before in film. You know, or they, well, a lot of them have actually been introduced, but they could have brought them back though. You know, they could have brought in Hush, which would have been interesting if they brought in Hush. You know, also Anarchy. They could have done Anarchy as well. You know, they could have just built it up little by little, you know, with the Batman universe. But the problem that I have, too, is the fact that Batman has such a huge villain and rogue gallery that they neglected to create a Batman film, and yet Batman's in the DC universe, but there's no Batman movie. There's only Batman vs. Superman Justice League. So I don't know why they put Batman in if he's just going to be in crossovers. You know, that's not a way to develop or flesh out your character.
Right.
You know, and that's the problem with the Batman that they tried to do with Ben Affleck, is that he's not fleshed out. No one cares about him. The reason why no one cares about him is because you don't have his own story. You know, that's the biggest problem. His whole thing is, I'm rich and I'm Ben Affleck.
Right.
You know, so I think they should have fleshed out Batman a lot more. That was one big problem, and I think that they should have, you know, probably brought in some rogues galleries that we haven't seen. They definitely needed to introduce the Joker just because of how much of a big thing he is. And they should have, like, done 2 movies in the first part. You know, and I feel like for every phase or whatever, the way they would have done it, they should have had 2 movies of Batman in each one, just because of how many characters there are in Batman. And what they could have done, which would have been more interesting in contrast to Marvel, is that in their movies they could have had more crossovers with other characters. You know, you could have had, like, you know, you could have had Flash and another character in one, like, you know, thing. You know, you don't want to do it too early, but once you get to the 3rd film, you can probably do crossovers a little more easier. There's stuff they could have done, you know. They didn't have to be like Marvel. They could have had, you know, more character interactions in films with different characters that cross over. They could have, you know, they could have done a lot. They could have done so many different things, you know, and they could have, instead of going the Darkseid route, which they basically copy Marvel with Thanos. You know, I get Darkseid as a villain, and almost all the characters of DC and Marvel really are very similar. You know, one is a ripoff of another, another is a ripoff of another, but I feel like they should have went with the Legion of Doom and started to build that up slowly, especially since you have all Batman's rogues galleries. They could have slowly built up the Legion of Doom or whatever, and had that as like the big thing of this like first saga or whatever they're gonna do. Then they could have had Darkseid, and then they could have had, like, you know, Infinite Crisis of Infinite Earths or whatever, like with the Flash and all that crazy stuff. And then they could have rebooted the whole thing by doing a Flashpoint.
Right.
Like, if they wanted to, they could have like rebooted the whole thing once they're done, and then make some more movies, you know, and do different actors or whatever, you know, if they wanted to. So there's a lot of things they could have done.
Yeah, it's
And I,
I feel like, you know, we've stretched it out as far as we can with Batman. Like, he's the most. I mean, I like him. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm a huge superhero fan, but I feel like we're stretching him thin. We can't do any more with him.
I mean, I think we can. There's still villains. There's still Hush. There's still Anarchy. But I think, like, you know, with the Joker is where it becomes really stretched thin, because you've had Jack Nicholson, you've had Joaquin Phoenix, and you've had Heath Ledger, and you had Jared Leto. And coming up with new ways to reinvent the Joker is hard. Reinventing Batman is a little bit easier because, you know, there wasn't that many. Batman was a little bit harder to do, you know, because you had Michael Keaton, which everyone loved. Michael Keaton's one for the most part.
George Clooney.
George Clooney. I know
Sir,
you love George Clooney.
I'm serious. I love my George Clooney Batman. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
You know, and then you had like Christian Bale, which was more of a philosophical idea.
Now, who was
which I think
yours?
made it. Huh?
Who was yours?
I mean, the problem I had with Christian Bale's Batman is that I would like the edge of it, you know, because they made him edgier. But like Michael Keaton was a little bit different. Just the fact that he was like more like, you know, I don't know. It was interesting how they like, you know, how they went with like when you open up the movie, okay.
So
you know,
before you
like,
continue,
yeah.
we had finished this. We have finished the episode, and I'm getting the stats, and I'm gonna read them to you because you obviously can't see them. It says, "Did you ease Falcone's pain or make him suffer?" Me and 29 others decided to make him suffer. Did we kiss Selena? Me and 78.5% said yes. Did you visit Mayor Hill as Bruce Wayne or Batman? Me and 42 others chose Batman. Did you withdraw your funding for Harvey's campaign? What did you pick?
What, me? I never played the game though.
But what would you have picked? To give him the money or take your money away?
I mean, the problem is that it doesn't matter regardless. He probably realistically should have taken away the money because he's gonna bring in like mercenaries now into the town.
Okay, me and 8% withdrew our money. And me and 37 others decided to save Harvey over Selena.
Oh, you chose to save Harvey over Selena? Alright.
Yeah, I pushed the button wrong. Alright, so we're going on next time.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter what you chose for Harvey, regardless, he would become, you know, crazy, so it's just better to save Selena.
Dude, he's thick in this game, though.
Yeah, they made him, like, really meaty, but anyway, back to Michael Keaton's Batman.
Yes.
It was kind of interesting how they made him, you know, they didn't have, like, they didn't exaggerate as much as Christian Bale's. And I liked how he was just more like, how would I say it? More like, relatable. You know, it was a little bit more, like, comical in some ways, but I liked how they introduced him as, like, you know, like, he doesn't say that much, he's more silent and quiet, but he's intimidating, though. And everyone's just like, oh my gosh, you know, we hear he drinks blood and stuff like that. You know how you have, like, the rumors and all that stuff? I thought that was a cool way to open that one up, how they're just like, you know, how the criminal underground's talking about him.
Right.
That news about your father.
Oh, this is interesting. I just found an article. So guys, I just found an article. It's talking about how Doctor Strange's original sequel for Marvel is outdated now.
Outdated?
Yeah, so let's see. I'm reading this, so...
What do you want from me?
Oh, you want this Dende, girl? I know what you want.